Into the last minute of stoppage time, Marcus Bent for Everton. Forced wide by Davenport, he scored though! Marcus Bent scores for Everton! Disbelief from Harry Redknapp. Everton have got an equaliser in stoppage time through Marcus Bent.
He's a young manager with already a reputation of, at the very least, putting out teams that will scrap.
What's he doing?
It's Marcus Bent.
Gary Docherty, what is he doing?
It's Tottenham 3, Leicester 4. It's
Here's Marcus Bent. Well, it's an outstanding way for him to score his first goal for Leicester.
Yeah, so just once again, obviously we spoke about it before. Do you think it's much better the sort of youth training scheme now with regards to, you know, back in the day a lot of people describe it as quite bullish for the youngsters. Do you think that helped you out in your career becoming hardened at sort of a young age?
I mean, how do I explain this? I mean, being bullish, I've never liked to bully, or I don't like to be bullish. With my upbringing, my dad was very hard on me, and I think a lot of other players, mums, dads, you know, coming from wherever they come from, Jamaica, England, were very hard on their kids at that point. So at that point, it was called YTS. So we used to have to get up at probably 6 o'clock in the morning, go. We had 2 pros to wash their boots, get their kit. We used to have to paint the stands, sweep the stands. We wouldn't get home until about, I think, probably about 7 o'clock in the evening on the bus and stuff, which was hard. But we were focused, and as Linford Christie used to say, so I started off doing athletics. Linford Christie used to say tunnel vision. So I always used to tunnel vision myself throughout the day and make sure that I get myself through the day and achieve my goals, in a sense. It's hard. Nowadays, there are probably about 15, 20 players that will get a contract. In my day, there was probably about 2 or 3 probably got it because of the finances. And that's just the way it was. I don't think the kids now do the boots. I don't think they sweep the stands.
What do you think to that, Marcus? What do you think to that?
What do I think to that?
Yeah.
Good question. You've just answered me a good question there.
Because the only reason I ask you, Marcus...
it's fine. I always tell the truth. I like to tell the truth. I like to be upfront with it as well. Don't get me wrong. I love some of the players today and how they're adapting and progressing in the game. But I think when I was playing, there was a reserve team. So if you weren't in the first team, you got taken down to the reserve team. Now you've got the under 23s. Now you've got the under 18s. And they get signed on a contract on the under 18s and under 23s on a pro contract. So mostly they probably go out on loan on the under 23s, play for their national side. So at that point, they probably made a lot of money and I don't like to disrespect them, but they felt like they've made it.
Yeah.
But really and truly, they've not made it into the first team changing rooms. So once you make it into the first team changing room, that's when you've made it for me.
And what was that like when you got into Brentford's changing room the first time, Marcus? What was that experience like?
Again, I got into the first team changing rooms at the age of 16 and a half. But I had fought and trained with them for a long while. I did have an opinion. I trained with them quite young, and I wasn't arrogant. I was quite confident. I was probably arrogant. Yeah, I'm smiling.
Do you need to be, though? Do you need to be, Marcus?
No, of course. You have to have that arrogance, but the problem is that you can't be too over arrogant and too over, opinionated, I suppose. And that's what I learned through my career. So I had a lot of mature, experienced players at Brentford to take me through, to go through to Crystal Palace. And then when I hit Crystal Palace, I had the likes of Lombardo, Matt Jansen. I could go on.
Brilliant players.
Top players that taught me how to kind of, I still wasn't mature at that point because I was still growing. I remember going into the under-21s and meeting Emil Heskey and going into the bedroom, getting picked up by a fancy car and seeing Emil Heskey. And he was playing at that point, he was at Liverpool. And that was amazing for me. He turned around and he said, "How are you doing, Marcus?" I didn't know that he knew my name. I didn't know who I was. So it was nice to know, and it made me appreciate that, the hard work and your goals and your passion can sometimes, always, if you kind of, again, tunnel vision, get to the point where you want to go forward with it.
So when you were sort of 16, 17, you got into, you made your first appearance at Wembley, as we were talking about earlier with Brentford in the playoffs. What was that like for us? I mean, as a 26-year-old lad, even if I was just to step on the field now, it would be incredible. But what's it feel like as a 16, 17-year-old to step on that pitch for the very first time?
Best thing in the world. Wembley, England. That's where you want to play. That's where your goals are. That's where your focus is. Your tunnel vision, as I say again. But we got there, so we went out on the pitch. There was no fans in the stadium, and it was big. It was wild. It was a wow. It was a wow factor. If you can take yourself back to being a 16-year-old. Looking out on a park, in a sense, oh my goodness. But back in the days, it was like wooden chairs, wooden steps. It was old school. But that was my world. So it was a wow factor. We went into the changing rooms again. So there were big baths. The changing room was massive. I've never seen this thing. I've never seen it before in my life. This is what I'm striving for. This is what I want. I can see the England players going in there. Alan Shearer, Michael Owen, Ian Wright.
Heroes.
Those sort of players being in that changing room. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is what I want. So then we walked back out for the warm-up and there's more fans. So the stadium becomes smaller. So it becomes creepier, scarier. So we warm up like we do every Saturday, every Wednesday, every Tuesday, whatever you want to call it. We go back in. Manager gives his team talk. We go back out. So all the fans, crew and Brentford fans in the stadium. So let's just breathe a minute and let's say, for instance, the Wembley holds, what would it hold, 80,000?
Yeah, I
I
think
think it was,
80,000.
yeah, I think about 80,000. So I walked out, and so the whole team walked out. You've got the music going, so the stadium becomes so I'm going to do it like this, smaller. Yeah, can you see what I'm trying to do right now?
Yeah, I get it
So
now.
it became smaller. So it wasn't like that. It was just smaller. It just became smaller. I had the worst game. I had the worst first half of my life. But thankful enough, well, I got taken off at half time. And then we didn't win the game. We stayed in the second division. But Crystal Palace came in for me. After that game, I thought no one would come in for me. I was poor. I was crap. Excuse my French shit. But again, being young, I had to learn, and I learned. That's what I learned from playing at a top club. Well, not a top, sorry, yeah, a top club, but in a top stadium against a good team, being Crew at that point. So I learned the way to go and the way to go forward.
Yeah, that makes loads of sense. And obviously, you were just talking there about Palace coming in at the end of the season for you, Steve Coppell. He's done really well in the game. Obviously, not really around anymore, but the likes of Lombardo, Bruce Dyer in that complete change of scene. So stepping from Brentford, no disrespect, but to a top division team like Palace, what was that like?
Oh, I mean, again, like you said, Tilly Lombardo, Bruce Dyer. I mean, again, Matt Jansen, who was an up-and-coming player. Some of the players. It was walking into the changing room. I mean, Clinton Morrison was coming through in the YTS at that point. Leon McKenzie was coming through too, so they were under me.
What a player!
Which is weird, because they're my friends now, but they were coming underneath me. I mean, Clinton Morrison was my boot boy. He was the worst boot boy in the world, but a good goal scorer, great player for Crystal Palace. I mean, he went on to play for certain other teams, but we had a good side. Again, I went in there, done really well. We got relegated. I scored some great goals for Crystal Palace.
Scored one at Anfield as well, didn't you?
Anfield, yeah. Anfield, Bolton.
Key goals.
Sorry?
Key goals.
Key goals, yeah. Key goals. Well, key goals in the sense that they were good within my career, but it didn't keep us up. But they were key goals where I could experience scoring at Anfield, Bolton, and West Ham at home, and scoring against some great players too, and just experiencing that. I then got called up for the under-21s. I had a hernia at that during the season. Came back, and the manager that came in after the season, he came back, brought in a load of players. Hence why I went to Port Vale.
Was that Venables?
Venables, yeah.
And obviously after the Euro '96, and the Venables not been a hero as such because we didn't win it, but he was a big figure in England at that point. Were you excited when he came in?
Yeah, a good manager, a good coach. It didn't go quite well. I thought I was going to roll on and do well and stay at Palace. But before he came into Palace, he was the Australian manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he brought in a load of Australian players. I mean, I don't want to say why he done it, but yeah, you kind of, yeah, I don't know whether it's for. I don't know. I don't want to say, but he brought in a lot of Australian players, which shouldn't have been there, and for me, destroyed what I was focusing on and where I was going. I spent the next 8 months playing reserve football after getting called up to the under-21s and doing really well for Crystal Palace. So it was frustrating for me. So listen, good manager, good players from Australia that he brought in, but I don't think it was the right way to go.
And obviously just with that, Marcus, because when you see Venables and you saw him with Gaza and there's all the montages of him with his arm around Gaza, and you think to yourself, that guy is a man manager, and you've experienced some serious man managers in your career, which we'll get onto. But did Venables ever turn around to you and say, "Look, Marcus, this isn't working out," or was it just sort of?
No, I think it was quite. I was young. I think at that transition, I think he was coming back from Australia. I think he came off of being an England manager to go into Australia. Gaza, that was, before Australia. Again, I don't want to say too much, but he came back and he came into Crystal Palace and tried to do something special with the international players, Australian players that he worked with, to get Palace back on stable and stuff. But for me, it didn't work. Hence why I had to move on. But he is and still is, for me, a great manager. He manages players. He talks to players. Hence why you're saying about Gaza. I mean, the rest of the players that he speaks to, I think he's that sort of manager that speaks to them and gets them to play the best football. But I didn't see that from him at that age. No.
Yeah. So then £300,000 move to John Rudge's Port Vale. I mean, from being at Palace, sort of seeing the upward trajectory of your career, what was that experience like? And did you get along with John Rudge at Port Vale?
I mean, it was scary. It's the first time I've been outside of London. I've moved away from my family. I've got to find a flat. I've got to pay my bills. I'm then going to Port Vale on a wage that is probably the biggest wage at Port Vale for a long, long time. So I've got this stigma. I've got this, I don't know.
Expectation at that point. And again, I was probably, 20? I remember driving up north, having all my bags and clothes in the back of the car and going into the petrol station. And I went to put stuff in my car, and the woman said to me, that'll be, let's say, for instance, that'll be £23, duck. She called me duck. I said, why are you calling me duck? She said, no, it's just me saying, mate. So I had to learn the way of the northern language, and coming out of London. I mean, I probably cried the whole way from London all the way up north, staying in a hotel for probably about 6 months, and having to find my own place, my own flat, house, whatever you want to call it. Didn't do too well when I went up to Port Vale, but again, stepping stone. That's where I went, and I dealt with it. And again, that's why we're talking about it. So I hope anyone that is going through this or does have to go through this, if you're not doing well, or if you do well, be humble, be safe, be strong. Always stay in touch with your friends. But again, it's not guaranteed that you're going to make it at all. But you have to be strong. You have to move forward within it.
mental health has come through in the back end of my career. I didn't know that mental health actually existed, or anxiety existed when I was playing. But now I know butterflies when before a game. That was anxiety. That was anxiety in a sense. So, yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways to explain it, but that was my first experience of going up north and being away from my family. Yeah.
So this would be after John Rudge left. This would be your first encounter with Mickey Adams. Not for the last time in your career, but Mickey Adams. Give us cause there's a lot of Mickey Adams lovers who watch this podcast. So tell us a little about him.
Oh Lord, really? Do you want me to tell you about Mickey? Okay. Mickey, if you're listening and if you see me, I love you, boss. He's got a small mentality, a small man mentality. He can be a very angry man. He used to run us constantly. Every other day, he used to run us. We always used to have to be fit, strong, which is cool, which is fine. Every footballer has to be. Again, I didn't really do too well at Port Vale. And then moving forward to go to Sheffield United, I kind of just picked myself up and got my confidence in a sense. Not that Mickey suppressed anything or made me play worse. He just was a very, and I'm going to say it because I'm finished football now, so I can say he was a very angry manager. And if I see him, we can talk now. He's my boss. I love him, and I'm so glad he's done so well in the game. And I'm so glad that he's taken me to so many different clubs, and I've had to experience management under him. But yeah, I went to Sheffield United on the second season, I think it was, and done really well.
So it's interesting you just jumped to Sheffield United there, Marcus. So I live in Sheffield, so I know what it's all about.
Whereabout? I
live just in the city centre, but I used to live on Ecclesall Road. Used to be where I.
Yeah.
So that's where I used to reside. But
so that's where you go out clubbing and
that's
stuff.
It.
All right, okay.
Nailed it. Yeah. But with regards to Sheffield United, you've gone from Mickey Adams to Neil Warnock. Do you think that sort of helped you out a little bit because are they quite similar managers?
Well, I didn't go straight to Neil Warnock. It was what was the manager? There's a manager before that, and he got passed on. He got sacked because the club wasn't doing well. But Neil Warnock came in. But Neil Warnock came in from a non-league club. So his way of thinking, the way he's coaching was minded with mine. He'd, again, like Mickey Adams, give you a day off here, give you a day off here. He was very friendly. It wasn't like don't get me wrong, I called him a manager, I called him a boss, but he was very friendly and tried to get the best out of you at every point he could. So literally, again, as soon as he came in, I was just scoring. I mean, hat tricks at Man City, scoring goals without thinking. Still wasn't the finished article, but the players that I had around me, Paul Devlin, the players that I had around me at Sheffield United at that time, we were just a team. We were a force to be reckoned with. But we always socialed together, go out together, Ecclesall Road. I mean, yeah, it was brilliant. It was nice. I mean, leaving there, I remember having the call from Blackburn to move. I went into Bramall Lane and fans, but walked out into the stadium, and I knew I was leaving. Again, I cried. And then that morning I had to pack up my stuff, and the car picked me up, and I turned up at Blackburn. Yeah.
When you talk about, like work-life balance that we all have in our lives, would you say you were the happiest in Sheffield?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you just brought something up. Yeah, very happy. I was absolutely ecstatic. Very happy. I knew the town. I knew the fans. I could walk about. I don't really care if everyone knows me or speaks to me, but coming from London, it's not always the same when you go up north. When you go up north, it's a little bit more smiley and a little bit more happy, in a sense. So knowing that I'm going to move to another city, which I don't know, Blackburn, a bigger team, not a bigger team, sorry, but a team where I feel like I can go and kind of make my name and move forward, in a sense, with the likes of the players that were there. I had to make that move. But Sheffield United, I love, always will do. I was doing Liverpool, Sheffield, start of the season. And I remember coming down out of the stands, and the whole stadium gave me a clap and a cheer. I didn't know that they would see me, or I wasn't expecting it, but they all clapped me and gave me that presence and that love, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot.
So then we move to Blackburn, and Marcus Bent scores an extremely important goal versus Burnley. So after that, you were surely adored.
Yeah, going into the derby and scoring, I think we won 2-0. McMahon, who came in shortly after me, scored after me. But to score that goal, I think I go down in Blackburn history. But I think I don't want to say that I'm that guy that goes down in Blackburn history. What I'm trying to say is that season we had a force of players, manager, players, international players playing in the Championship, weren't in the Premiership, and we achieved great things. But scoring against Burnley and then against Preston end of the season, I always can go up north with my head high and chin high, because the Blackburn fans, I appreciate them, and I think they appreciate me. So,
Graham Souness, you've had some fiery characters so far in a young career, and you moved to probably the fieriest. What was that experience like with him as a manager? Did you always get along with him?
Graham?
Yeah.
Oh no, he's my best manager I've ever played under. He taught me how to be a basic footballer. He taught me how to be a striker. He taught me the basics. And first and foremost, he shook my hand when I didn't want to leave. And I hated him for it. When he sold me to Ipswich. So he sold me to Ipswich after we got promoted. When Blackburn got promoted, he sold me to Ipswich. I didn't want to go, but he said, we have to sell you. I think it was for £3 million. But he shook my hand and explained to me that I'm ready to go on and do better things at a different club, because they wanted to bring Andy Cole in at that point. I hated him at that point. But I love him because he actually explained it to me, shook my hand, and didn't go. He didn't go behind my back. He we were. I'm not going to say friends, but he just explained it to me, and rather than just being a manager that asks for, I don't know, loyalty or anything like that, he was just a guy that I literally got on with, and I like that someone that wants to shake your hand. And I mean, again, someone that spits on your hand as a man, and a handshake in a sense. So, yeah, I still speak to him now and then, but he would be my best manager, definitely.
So, obviously, like you just mentioned there, Andy Cole for Marcus Bent. The move to Ipswich came along. Marcus Stewart. I mean, yeah. I remember Marcus from back in the day, and you guys were a formidable partnership. You sort of picked up where you left off. Premiership Player of the Month. Was Ipswich a good time for you?
Yeah, I got Premiership Player of the Month. Marcus Stewart was a goal scorer, an absolute goal scorer. His touch, not so much pace, but he knew where the ball was going, so I'd work off him in a sense. Titus Bramble, Matt Holland, Darren Ambrose, Darren Bent.
What was Ambrose like? What was Ambrose like, Marcus?
Oh, formidable. He wasn't playing in the team when I first got there. He was coming through the academy at that point. What a player. Touch, skills. Darren Ambrose and Darren Bent, without those two together, you wouldn't have the Darren Ambrose and Darren Bent. They just literally, best friends. They literally complemented each other. Without Darren Ambrose, Darren Bent wouldn't have gone to Charlton. So they both went to Charlton at one point, but Darren Bent wouldn't have gone to then, I think it was it not West Ham, Sunderland for £20 million. I promise you now. Darren Ambrose, and then Darren Ambrose went to Newcastle, both talented, brilliant, calm, off and on the pitch. Still talk to them now. They are probably the youngest, most talented players that I've come up with and come against in my career.
Do you think Ambrose could have gone higher?
Probably, yeah. I think so. I mean, leaving Newcastle, he went from Newcastle to Charlton. Again, I don't want to speak for him, but sometimes mental health, sometimes, reasons that I don't want to speak about. I don't know. I've not spoke to him about it, and I don't want to get into it. You'd have to speak to him about it. But talented player, both-footed, skilled, quick, had it all. Who knows? I don't know.
So administration followed at Ipswich. Obviously relegation, the sale of Marcus Bent to Leicester on loan, and the return of Mickey Adams.
No, I didn't get sold. It was just administration, so I got loaned out.
Loaned out, yeah.
Yeah, I got loaned out. It wasn't a sale, so I went to Leicester. Done really well, and again playing against like Les Ferdinand, Frank Sinclair, Brian Dean, Ian Walker, good friend of mine, goalkeeper, England international. Oh, my goodness. The team that was in that Leicester was just immense.
You've had some teams, haven't you? You've had some really good teams.
Massive. Matty Elliott, Muzzy Izzet, midfielder.
Can we touch on him? Can we touch on him slightly, Marcus?
Yeah, go.
Because there's always, I mean, I think I've actually watched a podcast with Walker, and he was saying that he's one of the most underrated players that you will ever come across. Muzzy Izzet. Apparently, he was top draw.
Absolutely. Technique. Brilliant. Just, I mean, we played a tournament probably about a year ago. Still got the passion, still got the finesse, still got the pass. Just brilliant. So playing with these players again, to go into this side. I think we played against Leeds the first game. And again, the players that I played with Leicester at that point in the Walker Stadium was just immense. And again, Mickey Adams. Same Mickey Adams, strong, ran us every other day.
But he clearly loved you, Marcus. He clearly did.
Well, there you go. I suppose he did. And I've still got love for him. But he brought me back, and we worked hard for each other. But it didn't work out again. We went down. I think the last goal that I scored was against Everton. Joe Yobo, back post. I just had my daughter, and I gave it the baby wave and stuff. And that's when Joe Yobo, Everton. That's when Everton came in for me at the end of the season. So,
I mean, with Everton, there's so many sort of things I'd like to touch on. So, you essentially replaced Rooney at Everton, which, I mean, obviously Wayne Rooney at that age was phenomenal. But what was the pressure like coming in for Rooney at that point?
Well, let's touch on, before we go into that pressure, I mean, I'm now an experienced, confident player that's moved up north, that can take on that pressure. I've moved on from moved on from Ipswich to Leicester, and then being signed to Everton. But again, like you say, kind of being replaced. I'm replacing Wayne. But the season before, Everton nearly went down in the Premiership.
I remember.
Right, nearly went down. But Wayne came on and was awesome. He got his metatarsal. If you remember his metatarsal, that's when everyone realised that what a metatarsal was. So I remember going to the changing rooms, and Wayne was on top of the roof of the changing rooms, and he was shouting at the academy boys. So we were both sat up there. He actually said to me, he didn't say you're replacing me. He basically said, just be hardworking. Everton is a family. I think I'm going to Man United in a couple of days. So I thank you and I love you. And we've been good friends since then. But he literally was just trying to give me the spiel, how to do it, how to go forward at the young age he was.
What was he like as a player, Marcus, just watching him live? What was he like?
Oh, brilliant. Technically strong. I mean, he done a lot of boxing. His family background is very strong too, a little bit like mine too. I mean, he got himself in trouble in certain stages, still does, so do I. But very strong-minded, very physical, very technical, very gifted. So hence why when I went in there, we sat down and we had a good chat. A lot like Duncan Ferguson, same background.
What was Duncan like?
Ah, my man, literally my man. I don't know whether you've seen the game with Leicester and Everton. He nearly hurt someone in the middle of the pitch or got sent off, and I jumped in between. And I
getting in between.
Not that I got scared. I'm never scared of a conversation or competition. But Duncan Ferguson in a sense. But anyway, so when I joined Everton, Dunk didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. I promise you now. And I've said this before on Instagram or social media. Didn't speak to me. I didn't know why. So McFadden who I was friends with, I said, why is Dunk not speaking to me? He said, he's working you out. I said, what do you mean he's working me out? So what he wanted to know is that I was committed, I was strong, I was a good player, and I was a good buy in a sense. So after that 2 weeks, Dunk became a good friend of mine. Tim Cahill came in, and Dunk would always say, "You're on fire, Benty. You're on fire." Bad accent from me. You're on fire, son. You're on fire. So he'd always give me acknowledgement. He'd always push me along. He'd always give me that confidence, regardless whether he wasn't playing or not. It was always a team game. That's why I love Everton. It was always a team. We were always together. Tommy Gravison.
I was about to touch on him. I've heard a lot of stories about him being completely mental but gifted.
Oh yeah, me and Tommy didn't work out from day dot, but what a player! He taught me how to. Hence why he went to Real Madrid. Lee Carsley, just Tommy Gravison, just his work ethic, the way he passed the ball, his technique. It was all just neat, on point. So I learned a lot off Mikel Arteta. He came in halfway through the season from Rangers, I think. And his technique, his ability, the way he would manipulate the ball, pass the ball, move the ball, you just learn off of these guys, and just made me into a better player.
With Gravison, is there any sort of like training ground stories you can remember? Because apparently he was just a complete nut job, wasn't he?
I can't tell you stories. I like I always say, what's in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Yeah. I can't tell you them stories. But yeah, he was a lunatic. But a good guy, always behind the team, always someone that wanted to win, 100% guaranteed. I love him to death. But again, I'm not saying that there's stories that are bad stories. I'm just saying there's stories that probably wouldn't. Stories I couldn't really touch on.
So later on, it was the emergence of James Beattie to Everton. So what was going through your mind then when James came along?
I mean, at that point, we finished fourth that year, playing one up front. We got back from pre-season, and David Moyes. I think I sat in the changing room, hadn't spoke to the players the whole pre-season or summer. We were all on our holidays with our families, in a sense. So we all sit in the changing rooms to go into the pre-season, and I don't know who said it to me. They said, "Did you get a new contract?" I said, "No." I think it might have been Timmy. I don't know. Timmy Cahill. I said, "No." He said, "Well, everyone got a new contract this pre-season." I said, "Well, I didn't." So I was a little bit bemused and a little bit downhearted, in a sense. I mean, I started every game that season. Even the likes of Duncan that didn't start all the games, and I mean, I could go on, but so we went out, we trained, so it was still on my mind. So I went up into the manager's office after training, knocked on his door. I said, "Boss," I said, "I've just heard that everyone else has got a new contract, and why haven't I got a new contract?" He said, "We're going to have a look at yours in 6 months." I said, "Okay." I've still got 2 years on my contract, but really and truly, I'm the only one left out. The only one, I promise you now, the only one left out. I couldn't have it with my personality, with my opinion, how I played the season before. I couldn't have it. So anyway, then I hear that James Beattie's coming. So now I get it. So he's trying to replace me with James Beattie. Now, James is a good friend of mine too, and that's okay. But I wish that the manager had just said it. Hence why I go back to Graham Souness, who shook my hand and was up front with me and honest with me. I hated him at the time because he was replacing me with Andy Cole, but he was up front with me and he shook my hand and said it how it was, and he told the truth. Now, Moisey didn't. Hence why I don't like him now, and I don't like speaking about him. And I'm not going to say his name again because I don't want any backlashes coming at me. So anyway, he said we'll review that in 6 months. Okay, cool. And so James came in. He replaced me playing one up front. James didn't actually come in and do actually that well off the start of it. Playing one up front, because James is not a one up front player. He needs to play up front with 2 players and score goals. The player that he is, coming from Southampton, playing for England, great striker, great strike, love him to bits, but just didn't get it at Everton straight away. At that point, I needed to go. I wanted to go to I wanted to go back up to London. I wasn't loving the love that I was getting. I wasn't loving Everton. Sorry, not Everton. I wasn't loving the manager. I was loving Everton, always loved Everton, but I wasn't loving David. So I had to go in there and tell him that I didn't respect him and didn't want to be there, and I wanted to move on. So that was my transition. That was my my point that I wanted to move on.
And at this point, just sort of like the midway point, really, Marcus, you've sort of been, I find it hard to say replaced because it's sort of diminishing your ability as a player, which
Sure. No, it's okay. That's okay. It's fine.
But Andy Cole's come in at a previous club. James Beattie's come in at this new club. What's going on in Marcus Bent's mind at this point? Are you not feeling loved?
I mean, as a player, as a person, as a mum, as a dad, you want to feel loved, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, at that point at Blackburn, when Graham Souness wanted to move me on, we just got promoted, so I felt like I was loved. I felt like I was a part of stuff. But going to Ipswich, I still felt like I was loved because I was going on to another bigger team. But then moving from, I think, from Everton to Charlton, no disrespect to Charlton, I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel appreciated. Not that I felt hated. I just didn't feel appreciated at that point. And not being respected in the sense where every other player got a contract after beating Liverpool after 10 years and coming fourth after the season that we had previously when Wayne went to Man United. I felt like I was used. So I was angry. I was very angry. And I think I went being angry, and hence why not the rest of my career, but part of my career, I felt like I just played angry. I was playing angry. I wasn't playing positive. I wasn't playing happy. I was playing angry.
So that was what you're talking about there, Marcus, the move to Charlton. What was your relationship like with Alan Kirbishley?
Oh, Alan, top man. Absolutely amazing coach. Yeah, amazing coach. I think he was coming to the back end of his career. The fans were on his neck in a sense. But what an amazing person, amazing manager, and lived quite closely to me in Kingswood at the time. But what an amazing manager. Yeah, definitely.
And then was it the emergence again of, well, not again, the first time really in your career, it was the new manager, was it Pardew who came in?
Pardew, yeah. No, before that. So Pardew was a good manager actually too. Very technical. I think at that point we were not rock bottom, but he was trying to kind of get us back up to where we were. Didn't have the finance or the money that he could spend, but we still had Darren. We were selling Darren to go to, I think it was Sunderland. I wasn't doing well at that point. But we had a Jason Yule, Morrison. Who else did we have?
Was Matty Holland then?
Matt Holland, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we still had some good players. But I think we were just not in the right place. I think we went into. Did we go into financial stuff? I think we did.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So I think it was getting to that point. So hence why when Kirbishley came in, that then with my wage bill and the money I was on, they sent me to Wigan. So
Wigan at that time, you know, they were, I mean, absolute assault. They were absolutely tearing through the Football League, and obviously it was Steve Bruce who comes in a little bit later on down the line at Wigan. I just wanted to touch on Steve. Did you get along with Steve Bruce?
Oh, Steve was awesome at the start. Yeah, Steve was awesome at the start. A little bit like a lot of like the managers that I've touched on. Man management, kind of pushed me in the right way, coached me in the right way. Steve, obviously playing for England and playing at Man United, is an idol of mine. The players that we had at Wigan, he came in and kind of, Emil Heskey was injured when I came in. So I kind of took over, in a sense, like Wayne. And so I kind of took over and done really well. Problem being is that Emil was contracted, I wasn't. So the chairman, again, politics came into it. So I thought I was going to get signed at Wigan at the end of the season. And I'm going to call him up right now. No, I'm not going to call him up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say to him, Bruce, you shook my hand and said to me, I'm going to give you a contract at the end of the season. He didn't. He shook my hand and my agent and didn't do it. I then saw him in Portugal, and he ducked behind a shed or a bush and ran away from me. And I laughed at him.
Wow.
There you go. There's a story for you. There's a story. I've never told that story. So whenever you shake my hand and you look me in my eyes, that's a contract there. He literally bagged away from it. He used me. But we done well. And do you know what? Let's move forward. I don't want to talk about him. He's still doing what he's doing. He probably does it to so many other players. I don't really care, to be honest. But good for you, Bruce. But anyway, next question.
So obviously, the time at Wigan, you then go back to Charlton. Then what?
Yep. So I went back to Charlton. So I went back to Charlton. So after Wigan, I went back to Charlton. No, I didn't. No, I didn't go back. I went to Birmingham.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to Birmingham. So after Wigan, so I still had my contract at Charlton, but I went to Birmingham. So I signed for Birmingham. I nearly went to Cardiff under Neil Warnock. Was it Neil Warnock?
Was it Malky Mackay?
Malcolm Mackay. You're right. There you go. Yeah, I nearly went there. But I didn't end up going there. I didn't want to go so far. Again, like I said to you, going to Blackburn, as we're touch on, me going to Middlesbrough on loan and going that far, it was just too far. I didn't have my family and my friends around me, and I kind of lost myself. But anyway, I went to Birmingham. We were in the Championship at that point.
Alex McLeish?
Alex McLeish, yeah. Mm-hmm. McFadden, who I knew from Everton. A number of players who I knew through my career. Actually, we got up that season. I didn't do well. Again, I think I've just lost. At that point, I lost the love for football. I lost the love within myself. Yes, and I lost the love within football, and just couldn't find it. Kept getting injured and seeing the players travel on a Friday to a game, and I wasn't traveling. Ended up training with the maybe youth team or the academy, which I found love in, because I've still got love for the kids now who are progressing and moving forward. So I kind of found the love within that to help them move forward, but it still wasn't my passion. And it wasn't my passion. It just, I wanted to be out in a stadium scoring goals and doing the things that I've wanted to do all my life, in a sense. So I ended up going out on loan quite a lot. I think from Birmingham, I went to Wolves. I then went to Middlesbrough, and then went to QPR. And that was it. I think I had 3 loans. Weren't the best times of my life. But there you go.
Because it seems like, I mean, interject if you think I'm wrong here, Marcus, but there was a steady incline, and it sort of got to Everton. And then from Everton downwards, you were talking about, being sort of quite angry. Do you think that was sort of the sort of stimulus to maybe it going down, and maybe you're not finding that love?
Yeah, as I said, yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think from Everton, and the way I felt disrespected and not appreciated, in a sense, not by the fans. The fans always appreciate me. They always appreciate me to this day, and I love them to bits. Every time I go back to Liverpool or the Blues, they always appreciate me. I think I didn't feel appreciated by the manager and the way I played. Should I have shrugged it off? Should I have gone on and done better? I think now what I'm talking about is mental health. I think suppressing stuff. Now I talk about the back end of my career, suppressing stuff. So when you suppress stuff, you just put it over your shoulder.
Yeah.
And you don't actually deal with it. And now I can talk about it. And that's what I think I'd done. I suppressed it. I wasn't confident with it. I wasn't comfortable with it. And I didn't have the support system, maybe. I don't know. But I definitely suppressed stuff. I definitely had anxiety. Definitely butterflies. What is butterflies? Butterflies for me, as a player, as a person, is anxiety. But yeah, now I can look back. Do I take it back? No, hell no. I'm glad that I wish I could have stayed at Everton. I wish I could have stayed at Everton. It didn't happen. But what I do know now is that my journey and what I'm going to become and what I'm trying to do while speaking to you to help the youngsters, the adults, the people that have these thoughts and things going forward, I can help with now. So I don't try and take it back, and I don't suppress it anymore. I'm glad it happened.
Even with the last sort of 3 loans that you had, you were talking about Wolves, Borough, and you had Sheffield United in there as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yes. Oh shit. Yeah. Excuse my language. Yeah. No. Yeah. So Wolves. Wolves, Middlesbrough, QPR, Sheffield United. Yeah. So I went back there. Yeah. And that was Mickey Adams again.
The main man.
That was Mickey Adams again. Yeah. You're right. Very right.
And did you know? With sorry, Marcus. Just with regards to the 4 clubs, I know you were talking about sort of the passion, for football at this moment in time is at an all-time low. Did you learn anything from the next sort of 4 clubs? So you had Mick McCarthy, Mickey Adams, Neil Warnock. Did you? There was Strachan as well, wasn't there, at Borough? Did you learn anything else?
I think at that time, again, my head had gone. But what I did learn is that there's other kids coming through. I'm a mature player, experienced player. So regardless whether I'm doing well or not, I've got to kind of teach them how to go forward and be positive around them. As hard as it was at times, hence why I talked to, Paul Cots and a lot of other players that were young around me and still talk to me now. Did I know what I was doing at that point? Probably not, but I'm glad that I held my head and spoke well to them and was professional and not outspoken, which I can be. I can be outspoken at times. I could probably be outspoken right now. But I try to give back and teach the youngsters and the up-and-coming kids, adults of this day and age to go forward and create their dreams and their tunnel vision, as we spoke about earlier on.
So after all these loans, you sort of still at Birmingham. Does your contract sort of expire? Is that how it ended? Yeah,
it was done. So I finished at QPR, and again, Neil Warnock was the manager at QPR. So that was my end. So Neil Warnock, he asked me to come back. So I finished. I think it was the last game of the season. He said, "You know what? You can go home." I think he knew that I was done. I didn't want it anymore. I think we were playing Watford. Yeah, it was Watford. He said, "Come, I need you to come and sit on the bench." I said, "Gaffer," I said, "I'm done." Honestly, I said, "Gaffer, I'm done." That was after 2 weeks. He called me and said, "Can you come and sit on the bench?" I said, "Gaffer, I'm done." He said, "All right, I respect that." I think it was Watford. Yeah, and that was my last professional game.
But then, obviously, we had a little more of a Marcus Bent's career when he went to.
You're not going Marcus, there, are you?
Marcus, hack me if I get this name wrong. Is it Mitra Kuka?
You got it.
In the Indian.
Try and spell it. Mitra
Kuka.
There you go.
Is it in the? So we go to the Indian Super League now. I mean, wow. Tell us about. I mean, that as much as Marcus Bent has lost his passion for football, that's another experience altogether. Did that revive you in any way?
Nah. I think what it was. I think I nearly went to AFC Wimbledon.
All right.
And Simon Bass was Simon Bass is a good friend of mine. Simon Bass was the second in charge, and he said, "Come down." They just come up from, I think, constantly. 2-1 championship, Am I right? Yeah. So they had a young team, young boys that were playing really well. And again, I finished at QPR. He said, come down, train. Let the physio see how you are. I was fit. I trained with them. I was fine. They offered me a good wage, highest paid player in the club. I turned it down because I wanted them to have a chance. I wanted them to go, and they've just achieved a load of, well, a great couple of seasons, and my passion just wasn't there, and I didn't want to affect it there. I thought that if we had lost or won, it would always be on me. Oh, Marcus Bent, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? So I wanted them to kind of see what's going on and achieve that for themselves. And then Mitra Kuka came in. Mitra Kuka. Freaking million miles away. Million miles away. I mean, they treated me like royalty. I mean, it took 24 hours to get there, driving through forests, snakes, monkeys, lions, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, Jakarta is the first place you get to, which is like Dubai. Very rich country. But then you have to get another plane, etc. Anyway, we get there. They find a nice house. Sorry, I stayed in a hotel first 2 weeks. And then they find me a massive house, too big for me. Pool. My daughter comes over, my eldest, with my ex girlfriend. She comes and stays too. But we used to travel 2 weeks away, 2 weeks at home. So they would be at home for 2 weeks. We'd travel for 2 weeks. We'd stay in hotels that were, I mean, the worst hotels, the worst places you could absolutely think of.
Wow.
I mean, if you've ever been to Asia, in a sense, and no disrespect to Asia, but there's no toilet there. There's like a potty where you kind of squat, whatever you want to do. I don't know. Not that I'm spoiled, but it got tedious. Some of the players were good. I didn't learn the language. I think it got to the point where it was just uncomfortable, and it was time to come home. I missed my family, and again, it was just too far away. I just was too far away from home, and I just wanted love, care, and attention, in a sense. So flying over Gatwick, and seeing the lights and everyone that was down below was just amazing for me. Yeah.
And obviously to the present day, Marcus, what are you doing with yourself now?
So I'm mentoring a couple of boys. I've literally just rushed home to do this with you. One of them is Cole Hutchins' son. His name's Jaden Hutchins. He plays for Woking. And we train every other day. I've got a couple of other boys too. I've got a couple of businesses and doing a couple of other things. I mean, it gets boring. It gets tedious.
Would you ever fancy going back into coaching or going into coaching at all? Like, you know, in the professional game, would you ever fancy doing that?
We'll see. We'll see. I enjoy the one-to-ones with my boys. I love that stuff. And again, with the mental health stuff and with what I've been through, self-medicating, we've not touched on that. But I'd like, not that I regret it. I wish I hadn't done it, but not that I regret it, because I know now a different side to mental health and why people do different stuff. And now I can talk to other players, other people on board, and people that are going through what they're going through. So I don't know. There's a different side of me now that football, yeah, I love football, and definitely would like to. I love coaching kids, love coaching players, but I think there's a different journey for me at some stage. Hopefully, I don't know. We will see.
And just obviously, because you were just touched on it there, Marcus. With regards to, I mean, I've had anxiety issues, and I sort of go through that still. And I definitely had it when I played football, not having that sort of support network within clubs. Do you feel that you were talking about the self-medicating there? Do you feel that sort of helped you to sort of deal with those sort of aspects?
Nah. Before I go into self-medicating, I never took drugs or took drugs throughout my career. I was always the teetotal. I started self-medicating because I got anxiety. I got depressed. And I didn't go out and club and do it. I found myself at home kind of in a hub, self-medicating. Did it make me feel better? No, not really. It made me feel paranoid, gave me anxiety. But then I got into, I don't know, a place where it was something I would do every other day, and then I would do it every day. And then I went into rehab. Rehab was awesome for me because I was around the like-minded people that taught me and gave me the tools to go forward and talk to people and do the right things. So I'm not, I mean, at that point I was scared of people and their opinions because I'm Marcus Bent and people are going to have an opinion against me and say bad stuff against me. I really don't care about that. Everyone's human. Everyone has their problems. People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. So be strong, be humble, be proud, and I'll try and help you any way you can.
I think that's a perfect way to end on, mate. And that's guys, that has been Marcus Bent. Mate, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. You didn't have to, and I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed it.
No, I loved it. I know I didn't have to, but I loved it too. You take care, buddy. Keep in touch, yeah?
Yeah, you too, Marcus. All the best, buddy.